Hi everyone, thank you for watching our video. We've got lots of other amazing online courses available on the Morales Method website. Please follow the link in the description to see our other online courses. Hi folks, thanks for joining us today. And today I'd like to show you some deep tissue techniques for the lower leg, ankle, and foot. We're going to start with Elena's posterior lower leg, working gastroc territory, and we'll show you some techniques for that. Also want to show different positional strategies. We'll then work anterior territory, and then we'll finish up with some foot techniques. So first off, one of the things that I want to mention is that the lower leg, ankle, and foot is a fantastic place to be able to affect positive change. But we also have to be mindful of situations. There are different pathologies that we want to be aware of when working lower leg, ankle, and foot. In this area, we have the back of the knee, and we just want to make sure that we know our way around the back of the knee. We know about different pathologies, different conditions such as deep vein thrombosis. We also want to be aware of when to work the lower leg, especially when someone has varicose veins. When folks are dealing with injuries or issues such as shin splints, then we also want to be aware of when to work and when not to work. So make sure you follow up on your pathologies and you know exactly when would be the best time to work. So here I have Elena's lower leg, and I want to show, just like in other videos, I want to show the palpation that we may need to do first in order to determine our strategy, in order to determine what direction we're going to work in. So here my left hand is sinking into the tissue, and I'm moving superior and inferior. I have been asked in class, said, Marty, do I always work in this direction? Are there other directions that I can feel for directional resistance? And the answer is absolutely. We can also put our big palm of our hand on the lower leg and feel for directional resistance in the frontal plane, in the coronal plane. And here, just like a bear paw, I want to move clockwise as I'm seeing it, and counterclockwise, and feel for the directional resistance. In this case, it feels to me like it's more difficult to go into the counterclockwise direction. And you can also imagine this counterclockwise direction as made up of different components. The superior direction on the lateral side and the inferior direction on the medial side. So this movement of counterclockwise palpation can be broken down into moving into the superior direction on the lateral side and the inferior direction on the medial side. I'm already showing you some techniques. You know, you can use knuckles to work the tissue. You can use soft fist. And as I've shown before, we can use our forearm. Sometimes you may have been shown this technique to work the lower leg. And this is very much a classic deep tissue technique. But what I like to show is a variation on this technique. So instead of using my right forearm and have a right foot forward, I will have my left forearm, and I will sit on the table just a little bit. So I'm leaning on the table just a bit, and I've got my left forearm on this lateral part. I'm sinking into that layer of availability. I found what I call end range, and then I can move in the direction of resistance. In this particular area, it is in the superior direction. How's the pressure there? Is that okay?
My lower legs are sensitive.
Yeah. You know, some people do have sensitivity in the lower legs, so we want to be mindful of our pressure. In my case, I am barely making any effort here, and I know that some folks, like Elena, may feel that intensity. So I can go in with a different tool. What I'm choosing to do here, though, is I'm just going to lighten up a bit so I don't have to exert much, and sink in, pull back just a bit, and then move in the direction of resistance. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Great. Great. If I wanted to go in the inferior direction, then I can turn around, have a seat again, and use my forearm, elbow to go in the inferior direction. Notice what I did with my left hand. I held Elena's foot, but what I also did was stabilize the lower leg so that when I start working, her leg doesn't rotate, her whole leg doesn't externally rotate, and I lose that purchase. So right in here, great way to stabilize and hold on to that tissue. I can also do it with my right hand. And here I go. I like to do this type of work on runners, not right after a competition, but several days after. Sometimes they're still dealing with tightness or soreness. So I like to go in several days after and start working to give them that flexibility back, that mobility back. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks.
Is it possible to work this tissue from a different position? Absolutely. And instead of moving around and possibly blocking the camera, what I want to do is show you how I could do it on Elena's left leg. And what I can do is turn the leg in, and that will expose some of the medial lower leg, and I can use my knuckles to work this medial lower leg. I can sink into gastrocnemius. I can even get into tibialis posterior. So my left hand is internally rotating Elena's left leg, and my right hand knuckles are working the tissue. If I needed to go in the inferior direction, I can do so. And of course, if you feel that you need to work a lot of this tissue specifically, then putting your client in sideline position is probably the best choice. Here I go working in the inferior direction, and notice my other hand went in there and internally rotated Elena's leg so that I can expose more of that medial lower leg, and I can access that tissue. I can use fingers, but fingers, I believe, I don't get as much power behind them in this particular situation, and I do need to step back just a little bit so I don't start to raise my shoulder or raise my elbow. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's sensitive.
A little sensitive. So I'm going to back off that spot just a bit and go back to knuckles. Sometimes also the fingers may be a little too pokey. Going back to Elena's right leg, same situation can happen here near the tendocalcaneus. We can use the same tools to work this area. I can use But in addition, I can use fingers to go in the superior direction. I can use soft fist to go in the inferior direction. All of the things that I did up here, I can replicate down here. In addition, I can also flex Elena's knee. I can have a seat on the table, and I can bring her foot onto my shoulder. So we're going to do this, position myself so I can bring her foot onto my shoulder, and I can work her lower leg with my fingers this way. This is a great strategy if I was going in this direction, because I can lean back and use the weight of just the force of my weight to create the stroke. When I do that, I usually have my fingers together like so. I don't spread them out. This creates a more focused force. I'll just show you like this, but I would be doing it over here. And like I said, I can lean back and create the force just from my weight, my leaning back. My thumbs are not grasping. I'm not squeezing her lower leg. I'm not squeezing or kneading. It's really just my fingers that are doing the work. If I needed to go in the superior direction, I would not actually lean forward and move this way. This requires a lot of arm force, and I don't want to put too much arm force here. So again, this technique would really lend itself if I was going in the inferior direction. If I needed to go in the superior direction, then I would just do the techniques that I've shown already.